Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for yielding. I rise today in support of this legislation, which includes the Midnight Rural Relief Act that I authored earlier this year. I'd like to take just a moment as a former small business owner to talk a little bit about the impact of regulations, because we'll hear from our colleagues on the other side that there's no evidence that regulations affect hiring, doesn't affect startups, that if we do these things that the whole environment's going to go down the hill and the whole is going to end here because of the fact that the federal government can't control every minutia of our lives. Now, I would say this, Madam Chair, that I believe, rather than a big government, that I believe in a big, free individual. I think a little bit as I tell my story today about my father, who started our roofing company in 1958. And there were fewer rules of the road then. There were rules of the road for sure. There were certainly rules put in place. There have now, since that time, been thousands and thousands and thousands. There's been a lot of discussion in this chamber about the gap between the rich and the poor and how the middle class is getting squeezed. And I just wonder if we ever think that maybe the middle class is getting squeezed, but they're getting squeezed by their government. They're not getting squeezed by rich people. They're not getting squeezed out of it by opportunity. They're getting squeezed out of it by a government that no longer lets them pursue the American dream. Sometimes I feel that the other side wants them to pursue their dream, that our government wants to dictate what the dream ought to be for the American citizens. My father had his own dream. He was a milkman in the 1950s after he came home from World War II as a U.S. Marine. He had 6 sons and later adopted 2 girls. I'm the youngest of 8. And there were many, many times in my life, and my father's, he tried to make a better, not just a better dream for himself, not just to live out his hopes and dreams and aspirations, but to build a better future for me, for my family, for my children and for my grandchildren as he started our family business. I wonder if today he could even do it. He had no money. He was delivering milk at the time. One of the lowest paid jobs out there at the time in 1956. He put an ad in the paper and tried to find work. And he decided that he would go in the roofing business. And through pure grit and determination and hard work, he started his own company. He was able to do that because all the barriers that had been put in place by this overreaching government weren't there. He had a customer of ours, of his actually, I was just a child, tell him he ought to name the company Security Roofing because they felt secure in his hands. That customer was well aware of the fact that that my father was providing a service for them that they were willing to transact money for. And it was a fair transaction of goods. And if my father had cheated them, his reputation would have went down and he wouldn't have been able to sustain himself. He built his company on fairness. He built his company in honesty and integrity, and the government wasn't in the way. And now today, imagine some unemployed worker thinking about starting his own landscaping business, his own roofing company, a young college graduate, a young woman who wants to be a beautician and start her own beauty shop. We have this complex maze of rules and regulations and licensures and all these things that we think have made life better, but have taken freedom and crushed the American dream. That's what this bill is about. It's about, for a moment of time, it's about incentivizing this government to remove the barriers and obstacles, to get them out of the way and say to the American people, there will be no more for a period of time until unemployment reaches this level, 6%. We're not taking away rules. We're just saying you can rely that there won't be new ones for a time being. Also, this bill will stop the President of the United States, both Republican and Democrats, from during the duck session, whether they've been fired or extended in their careers, to not promulgate a bunch of rules and regulations during the lame duck session. We've seen a massive increase of rules and regulations during that period of time. 17% in the 3 months following an election where parties change hands. The number of major rules issued during Bill Clinton's midnight period totaled 3.5 times more than the average number issued during the same calendar period in the other years of President Clinton's second term. President Bush wasn't much better. His was 2.5 times more. So to solve this problem, this bill would simply say to the President of the United States, for 90 days you can't do it. I support this bill, Madam Chairman. Thank you for your time, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time